record to the cloud.
That's right. Record to the cloud, please.
Okay, I have started recording. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining this special and very important panel discussion. And we are thankful to Karishma for administering it and making sure that things go well. So I will hand it over to Karishma.
Thank you, Ervad Sahib Temten Mirza and the North American Mobbits Council. This session is dedicated to understanding the nature and attributes of Ahura Mazda. The North American Mobbits Council Institute of Zoroastrian Studies is hosting this and last week's session and next week's session to build this wisdom so that we can understand and act. This session will be recorded and the recordings will be available on the North American Mobbits Council website. Speakers and participants will share their opinions in the interest of knowledge building and for sharing on internet sites globally, freely for the good of all. Much gratitude to Ervad Sahib Temten Mirza for permitting me to put this together and to Yazdi Tantra for sharing the recording on Zoroastrians.net. This week, we have Mobed Sahib Dr. Meheraban Puladi, Ervad Adil Minocherongji, Noshir Dadrawala, Fariboz Rahnamoon, and Professor Jamshid Choksi. We will meet again next week at the same time for 4 more erudite speakers. But first, let us frame the context of the question. Who, what is Ahura Mazda? This Ahura Mazda, that Prophet Asho Zarathustra, who reformed society, reformed the Mazdayasni Daina for the better. He chose to dedicate the breath of his life and his good mind to Ahura Mazda, the creative energy and wisdom, and his word and action to the conscience, Sarosh, the power to listen, and to Asha, righteousness. And it is through Asha Vahishta, represented by the fire, that Zoroastrians or Zarathushtis venerate Ahura Mazda, as per Gatha verse 33, verse 14, also utilized in the Atarshnyaish, Litany unto the Fire. I'm borrowing from my slides from the 8th World Zoroastrian Youth Congress hosted by the ZTFE, where my mother spoke on this concept, and the youth resonated so strongly with it that a very powerful discussion followed. In the Kemna Mazda prayer, a verse taken from the Ushtavaiti Gatha, we say, your fire and mind, O Ahura Mazda, through whose actions righteousness increases. So there is a triad of the mind, the breath, or the life force, and actions. And this Mazda is said to be at the beginning, the creative energy that designed the Gethau, the creation, the associated laws, the Daina, and wisdom, Kratum, and gives the mind the power to take action, to choose with conviction, with one's purpose and one's desire aligned with Ahura Mazda, such that we then are asked to take action in the Ahunavar prayer to increase the power of that Ahura in the world, the Ahura that we perceive within oneself and in all creation according to the Gathas. But that still leaves us with a void in our understanding of Ahura Mazda, and it is this void we request our speakers to fill, so that with our bright intellect we can fulfill Zarathustra Sahib's guidance of listen, reflect, then decide. Our first speaker of the day is Mobed Sahib Dr. Meheraban Puladi. Mobed Puladi holds a PhD in ancient culture and languages, and for about 4 years has now been the president of the Council of Mobids of Iran. Before that, he served as its vice president for 12 years. He's also responsible for providing religious guidance to the Zoroastrian community in Iran and has been a religious teacher for nearly 30 years. Mobed Puladi has established a museum of documents and manuscripts that houses over 12,000 manuscripts, including the oldest Avesta in Iran. The museum also exhibits Avestas, letters, historical records of Iranian Zoroastrians, and documents related to the relations between Iranians and Parsi Zoroastrians. Importantly, also, Mabed Dr. Puladi is the CEO of Anahid Company, which works in the field of water design, modern irrigation methods, and activities in agriculture and dam construction. Thus, Mabed Puladi is a bridge between worldly knowledge and the spiritual knowledge to guide the worldly world that Zarathustra gave us. He's also the guide and the bridge builder between the nations of Zoroastrians, the diaspora. Over to you, Mabed Sahib Puladi. Thank you. Please unmute yourself. Mabed Puladi, while he unmutes, we can all appreciate his increasing role between the diaspora of Zoroastrians worldwide. Over to you, Mabed Sahib Dr. Puladi.
Hello.
We
It's
can
okay.
hear. Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm Mazda. Hello, everyone. I would like to thank the organizer of this meeting. At first, I would like to talk about the word Ahura Mazda. The Ahura Mazda is made of two parts, Ahura and Mazda. Ahura is also made of two parts, Ahu and Ra. Ahu means being and life, and Ra means giver or creator. And Mazda is made of two parts, Maz and Da. Maz means great and mighty, and Da means knowledgeable and wise. So Ahura means Lord, and Mazda means wisdom. Ahura Mazda literally means the great wise creator. And now I would like to refer to Ashu Zartush's descriptions of Ahura Mazda in the Gatha. We believe that Ahura Mazda is a creator of universe. According to Gatha, Oshtavad God 43, verse 5, Ahura Mazda is the beginning and the end of everything. And according to Gatha 45, verse 11, I think Ahura Mazda is the brother and the brother, the friend, and the father of everyone. In the Gatha 31, verse 7, in Ahnabat God, we read that Ahura Mazda is the source of all the physical and spiritual lights of the universe. And according to Gatha 44, Oshtavad God 44, verse 3, Ahura Mazda is the creator of everything. And 44 verse 6, Ahura Mazda is created the universe for our happiness. It's very important. I would like about like Ahura Mazda in the Avesta, in different parts of Avesta, like ستایش یکتا خداوند، 101 نام خدا، اورمزگشت, and another parts, Ahura Mazda and his descriptions are mentioned. For example, in ستایش یکتا خداوند, it's mentioned the Ahura Mazda اوی همی بود و همی هست و ایزد ز پنامین و اندرج مینوان مینو خودش یک نام اورمزدج, which means that Ahura Mazda was, is, and will be present. And this refers to the eternity of Ahura Mazda. So, in the Gatha, how can we know the Ahura Mazda and approach him? According to Gatha, Oshtavat God 45 verse 10, in order to know Ahura Mazda and talk about him, first we must know ourselves, then try to approach him. And Ahura Mazda come to help us to Surushvaj and Koshti. We read Jasame Avanke Mazda Amai Utaushte Hurauze Britragnaya Hurazautai Vanentios Shao Paratatu Vaushai Hazautai Zaravone Akarane Zaravone Derehu Hazautai Hashem Vaishtamasti Ushtaasti Ushtahmoi Yat Ashoi Vaishtav Yashem. And I ask Ahura Mazda that you and audience may be joyful and healthy in all stages of life, and that the divine light of Ahura Mazda may always shine within you. Thank you. Have a nice time.
Sepas as Shoma. Thank you very much, Mohabbat Saheb, Dr. Puladi. Please stay with us as we will come back to you for your 3-minute response discussion after all the speakers have spoken. Our next speaker today is Ervad Adil Minocheramji. Ervad Adil is a Zoroastrian Mabad and scholar dedicated to bringing the wisdom of the Gathas into lived experience. Trained in the ritual and theological foundations of the Zoroastrian Daina, he combines deep textual knowledge with innovative frameworks that move beyond static descriptions of Ahura Mazda. His work reveals the dynamic, recursive nature of truth and alignment in Asho Zarathustra Sahib's teachings, drawing directly from Avestan sources. Through his lectures, writings, and community dialogue, he engages both the young and elders, showing the Daina as a living pattern that grows, resists, converges, and returns with memory. In his approach, Ahura Mazda is not only to be spoken of, but entered into and embodied in daily life. Ervad Adil Minocheramji is known for weaving scholarship with experiential insight and offers audiences an intellectually rigorous yet spiritually resonant path to recognizing and living the principles of the Zarathushtri tradition. Over to you, Ervad Adil Minocheramji.
Thanks, Krishma. One second. Can you see my slides?
Perfectly. Thank you.
Great.
Splendid.
So, hi, everybody. My name is Adil, calling in from Los Angeles, California. And today I'll be talking about the wisdom to worship and the shifting perspectives of Ahura Mazda. So, while Karishma gave me a solid introduction, I'm not a scholar, if anything, and particularly not Zoroastrianism. So take my thoughts with a grain or more of salt. You see how much salt that guy's applying on the side. So that much salt is what I would recommend. But my influences for this talk are from Van Savant, Insler, and Hofstetter from an outsider's perspective, as well as Professor Choksi, who will be speaking later today, Ramir Karangia, who taught me all of my Navar prayers, the late Soli Dastur, and my lived experience. So the beginning, the name itself, we've heard so many different translations, and what my understanding is that all of the translations that we've heard so far are true, but the one nuance is that the Zarathustra and the Gathas meant something like the spirit of wisdom. However, there's no perfect one-to-one translation in English because in each different portion of the Gathas, it's very contextual. So some places it could mean existence, reality. In some places it could mean mind, knowing. So it's not necessarily easy to translate into English. But one point that I want to make out very clearly is that in the Gathas, Mazda is not anthropomorphic, which is meaning having human characteristics, but ontological, which is what it means to be itself. So about being, so wisdom being itself as a concept. So all of us have talked about scripture, but in my opinion, the perception of Mazda is the source of good mind, as well as the creator of truth and right, as the judge of our first actions. So less so of a creator in the grander scheme, but a creator of these concepts as well of truth and right. So the wisdom orders itself. In Yasna 44-5, we see the idea about the questions that Zarathustra asks to Ahura Mazda, like who established the sun, who established the moon to wax and wane. We don't get an answer back. Is the other nuance that I want to point out in Yasna 44? It's a question that's posited to Ahura Mazda. And then the other thing is that Ahura is not like a body, like Dadaji, as we oversimplify for the children, as Ramir pointed out last week, or a lord, as we see in later Sasanian theology, but rather a concept of a spirit itself. So how do we experience Mazda? The Mazda is here not to simply be the one who created matter. Mazda is the one who gave choice itself. So to be human is to live in the field of choices, and that possibility comes from Mazda or wisdom. So according to Yasna 30.3, Mazda is aligned with Asha, truth, right order, and righteousness. So like there are two ways of being, the better or the bad in thought, word, and deed. And between the wise, which is the individual, will choose the right way to go forward. So in Yasna 45.6, through truth and mind, through truth and good mind, I perceived Ahura Mazda. He didn't say, I saw Ahura Mazda with my eyes, but he said he perceived Ahura Mazda through Asha and Vahumana, through living truth and good mind. So the important part that I want to take away from this is that the Gothic Mazda, which is, or rather Zarathustra's perception of Mazda, is not an image, but a principle of truthful discernment. So the faith, Vashi, is trust that truth and wisdom are real and reliable. So we take this from a context of Yathao Veryo, which is the most ancient formula for our tradition, which translates to as the sovereign, so the leader, their wills are united in truth, The reward for good actions comes through Asha. The power belongs to Mazda when the humble poor are cared for in righteousness. Ahu is the sovereign, which in the Gathas, like there are multiple layers. It's like you don't like look at just the they're like both the metaphysical layer as well as the actual physical layer. So it's a nuance there. And then the Ratu is the leader, but Mazda unites both the abstract cosmic truth along with like social justice. So the big point, like if anything from this entire lecture is to be taken away, when we say good for a thought, word, and deed, and according to Ythaurio, care for the poor and virtuous is what we mean by good. So now going on to slightly later thoughts about liturgies. So in Hormazd, we worship Ahura Mazda, and we start applying properties to Ahura Mazda, like radiant, glorious, greatest, best, most beautiful, most firm, wisest, one who attains his ends, which are interesting because they can start to apply to the earlier concept of wisdom itself, but then you can see the proto-anthropomorphic nature of taking this concept and applying it to potentially a creator like God. So the nuance between this is that this vision carried into empire. So many of us have seen the Behistun inscription, where our leadership put up, by the will of Ahura Mazda, our former leadership put up the will of Ahura Mazda, I am king, Ahura Mazda bestowed this kingdom upon me. So in this, Mazda legitimizes the rule, but not automatically. So Darius in the Behistun inscription describes the liar, anybody who distorts truth, is the enemy of Mazda. So to govern rightly is to align with Mazda, to rule falsely is to betray Mazda. So in the Achaemenid period, the concept of Mazda remained the principle of wise order. So kings were measured against Mazda, not the other way around. Here you can see how Cyrus the Great applied this. Both the Babylonians and the Israelites looked positively upon him. In later shifts, we kind of see the beginning of the contracted form of Ahura Mazda, both in phonetic contour as well as conceptual scope, which is like a linguistic flattening that mirrors a theological condensation. Like here in later shift, like in the Bundesian and the Denkard, which are later scriptures, you can kind of see Ahura Mazda is contracted here and starts to become anthropomorphized as well. And as well as in like the legal perspective of the Vandidad, Ahura Mazda starts to take on this lawgiver role, which was not necessarily there in the Gathas. So the major takeaway I want to take away from this evolution is that the mythic lord of Ahura Mazda in the earlier phrase differs from the Lord of Wisdom, which kind of evolved as we transitioned and interacted with other faiths. So just to summarize everything, there's a pre-empire with Ahura Mazda's wise existence, an early empire of Ahura Mazda as the Lord of Justice and Order, late empire with Ormuzd, the contraction with the King of Light and the Cosmic Monarch, and then to date, after the Islamic period to date, Ormuzd is kind of a creator god. So citing both my favorite professors from Indiana, Hofstadter and Choksi, that there presents this thing. So one of the things that I want to point out is that just kind of potentially, if we return to a pre-empire view, it could make a infinite kind of loop. So how do we bring Ahura Mazda into life today? Again, going back to perceiving Ahura Mazda, Mazda is never far away. It's the wisdom we step into each time we choose Asha. It's going to take longer than you expect, even when you take into Hofstadter's law. So Hofstadter's law is that kind of recursive principle. Like you never like it's never going to be done. It's going to always take longer than you expect, even when you take into Hofstadter's law into account. Ashemvu is a recursive, axiomatic view of it. So Asha is the highest truth. Asha is happiness. Happiness comes to the one who lives for Asha itself. And then Humata Hukta Arashta. So it's like, let thought shape itself in truth. Let speech carry truth into the open. Let action embody truth in the world. And then the recursive arc here, incorporating Yangihatam, is wisdom leads to order, which leads to truth, which leads to inclusion, which then back leads to wisdom. And then going into the kind of conclusion of this presentation, fire as an allegory. So fire is living wisdom, and Ahura Mazda is a reference to a anthropomorphized representation of Ahura Mazda. So the logic of fire is it's both good, but every city also has a fire department, because when wisdom is weaponized, its flame is bent to evil and it rages out of control. So fire can both be very good and very bad, as well as the wisdom itself can be used for both good and evil. So the takeaway that I want to put here is that fire is the essence. So living in truth is what burns inside. Expression is the ash, so what history leaves behind. The fire matters more and the ash matters less. There's a lot more to Zoroastrianism than Ahura Mazda, and if you like this talk, you'll love this book. Anne had a chance to read through this presentation, an earlier version, and definitely a big influence on my thought here. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ervad Adil. Ervad Adil Minoche Heramji is the son of Ervad Sahib Ardai Viraf Minoche Heramji and the grandnephew of Dasturji Sahib Endi Minoche Heramji, for those of you who may know the great Endi Minoche Heramji Sahib, who could explain to a 7-year-old, me, the great spiritual wisdom in about 5 minutes that has lingered with my mind ever since. Our next speaker today is Naushir Dadrawala, a great influence on my life since a very young age, where I heard him live once in Bombay. Naushir is the CEO of the Center for Advancement of Philanthropy, and during his professional career of almost 40 years, he has guided and assisted a large number of charitable organizations and NGOs in matters pertaining to regulatory compliance. He has written several professional books, including his most recent one titled Governance of Non-Profit Organizations in India. Naushir is also an active blogger and has been the trustee of several trusts and continues to guide several trusts and institutions. Naushir has an abiding interest in the Zoroastrian faith, its history, culture, and writes regularly in the Parsi Times. And for your knowledge, everyone, the concept of charity is more beautifully described as Ra-Da. And I hope Naushir will explain what that means to you in his own inimitable style. Over to you, Naushir.
Thank you very much, Karishma, for this opportunity, as also to NAMC. Really very privileged to be amidst such an august audience where I know a few people and there are also a lot of new acquaintances that I'll be making. There may be slight overlap between what Mobet Saib Puladi said, my friend Adil said a little while ago. Adil, I knew your father very well. I had met him several times in Mumbai, a lovely man. And so this concept, the very common word that the community uses, even when as an expression, we always say, "Oh Khuda." Word Khuda, the very word Khu and Da is that entity which is self-created. So Khuda, who we may in the ordinary course of conversation call God, is an entity, if you may use that term, which is self-created, has no creator. There was reference made to the Hormaziyas, so I will avoid the Hormaziyas and I'll come to a Pahlavi version of the Hormaziyas, if I may, which is a text created or rather authored by Dastur Darbad Maraspan, somewhere around the 4th or 5th century AD, and which we refer to as the Dua Nam Sataish, and wherein we pray, Baname Yazat, that means in the name of that greatest Yazata, the greatest spirit. Baksha Yande, Baksha Yazgar Meheraban. 3 qualities of that greatest of Yazats. That he is the bestower, he is Baksha Yande, that is the bestower of good. It only speaks of bestower of good, doesn't talk about bestowing evil. Not a punisher, not a person responsible for evil. And I'll be dealing with that concept also after a little while. And Baksha Yazgar, which is the forgiver, and Mehraban, which is merciful or kind. And then we continue to say, Nam Satayashni Ahura Mazda, Hamabud, Hamahast, Hamabed, which means he who was, is, and shall always be. That's a concept. So, I mean, without beginning, without end, the Alpha and the Omega, if one may say so. Erwin Saib, Mohammed Saib Puladi already referred to this term Ahura. Yes, I agree. It's 2 parts, Ahu and Ra, which means the existing one or the source of all creation. And because Ahura is the source of all creation, we commonly refer to Ahura as Lord, because one who creates it. And Maz and Da, Maz, of course, the great knowing one, or all-knowing. That means the quality of omniscience. And omniscience equates to wisdom. And therefore, this common term that we use for Ahura Mazda, Lord of Wisdom, is derived from that. But there is a deeper meaning that we can go into. The word Ahu also refers to life or spirit or energy. And Ra simply means to give or to bestow. Therefore, Ahura is the giver of life or the Lord of the Spirit. And Maz is great, and Da, the giver or the creator. Therefore, Mazda is the great creator. So if Ahura is the Lord of the Spirit, Mazda is the Lord of matter. And therefore, you find that Ahura is about energy and Mazda is about matter. And we know that's what the twin concept of energy and matter is what makes the living universe. The famous E is equal to mc square, if I may say so. So Yasna 4.7, yes, somebody referred to it a little while ago. Ormaz is glorious, shining, unseen among the unseen. Unseen among the unseen. Yasna 4.3, Ormaz is full of raivato, radiance, and karenganato, which means glory. He's glorious and radiant. These are all qualities that are ascribed to Ahura Mazda. But both Zarathustra, now you have to see this way that, and I agree with what Adil said, Ahura Mazda is conceived by Zarathustra in the Gathas. There has been a subsequent evolution of the human understanding of Ahura Mazda down the dynasties. Probably Zarathustra lived during the Kayanian period, then there was the Achaemenid period, then the Parthian period, the Sassanid period, the concept of Ahura Mazda changes. In fact, Zarathustra doesn't speak about Ahriman at all, but the concept of Ahriman, or the equivalent of the Abrahamic devil, comes across in Sasanian times, but more about that later. But both Zarathustra and Ardaviraf, who is supposed to have been in a trance and went into heaven, hell, and purgatory, both seem to have, so to say, seen Ahura Mazda. And the only way they described Ahura Mazda was pure light. That Ahura Mazda was pure light. And a concept that comes across is that in the Zoroastrian tradition, the creator lives in his good creations. And that is why Zoroastrians are not just those who revere the fire. We revere the waters, we revere the trees, we revere the mountains, we revere earth, we revere all the good creations because we believe that Ahura Mazda dwells in his own creations. And therefore, the reverence of creation is reverence for Ahura Mazda. It is true nature that we look up to nature's God in that sense. What are his qualities? Duhanam Satayesh again, which is authored, we feel, by Adarvad Maraspan, the high priest of the Sasanian period, speaks about Khodai Mehesta Tavana, Dana, Dadar, Parvarta, Pana, Khawar, Kerfegar, Avik, so on and so forth. But what does the translation say? He is the greatest, powerful, wise creator, nourisher, protector, caretaker, virtuous, forgiver, dispenser of justice, and powerful. Powerful. All right, if he's so powerful, why do we still see the persistence of evil? And that's what was argued even last Sunday. And I love that discussion. We didn't arrive at any conclusion. And I must say, even I may not be able to give a convincing answer, but it is something that we'll need to explore. But the concept that comes across most beautiful in Zarathustra's Gatha is that Zarathustra constantly refers to Ahura Mazda as his Friya or Friyai, which means his beloved friend. This concept of friendship with God, friendship with Ahura Mazda, is unprecedented in any other religion. In some religions, God is seen as the Lord, Malik, somebody we got to be submitting to. But here, Zarathustra constantly talks about Friya. I want your friendship. I want your love. It's not about, I bow to you, O great one. Yes, we do bow in reverence because that's our humility. But Zarathustra refers to as God. We are not God-fearing. We are God-loving. And that is what Zarathustra has taught us. And Zarathustra tells us, how do we attain friendship with Ahura Mazda? And that you will find in Yasna 28.8, where we talk about Vahishtem Thwa, Vahishtem Yem, Asha Vahishta, Haza Hashem. It means, through the best Asha, do I entreat thee with affection, the most excellent friend, who is the Lord of all creations, bestow the gift of the good mind to me eternally. How beautiful is that? How beautiful is that? You know, they say when a Zoroastrian gets up, the first thing he needs to pray is one Hashem. And that one Hashem is considered 10,000 Hashems you may pray in the day. And it talks about, I shall follow Asha for the sake of righteousness. But another prayer we do even before the sun rises, in the period which we call Hoshbam. And in Hoshbam, what do we pray? We talk about Asha Vaishta, Asha Shreshta. What do we say? To the best Asha, to the highest Asha, may we catch sight of thee, O Ahura Mazda. May we approach thee, and may we be in perfect friendship or union with thee. It is only by walking the path of Asha that you can see Ahura Mazda, experience Ahura Mazda, and attain eternal friendship with Ahura Mazda, the Lord of wisdom, the Lord of this entire creation. So the two concepts that come out very strongly in the Gathas is friendship with God. Not to fear God, but to love God. And attaining wisdom through Asha. Wisdom is attained through friendship with God, and friendship with God is attained through righteous conduct, speaking the truth. And of course, Karishma will ask us later on, what is truth? We'll deal with that when she asks us that question. Even this word, I believe that all the great Greek scholars that we had, the philosophers, Socrates, others, they were highly inspired by Zarathustra. In fact, the very word philosophy comes from philosophia. Sophia is love and philosophy is love of wisdom. Philosophy itself means love for wisdom. And that is what Zarathustra gave us, the love for wisdom. And that's what gave birth to what is known as philosophy. So let's come to, in the final part, that despite Ahura Mazda being the creator, all-powerful, Why do we see this persistence of evil? What is evil, first of all? Why do we see what we see? Wanton destruction. Part of it is man-made, but not everything is man-made. Even long before mankind came on this earth, there have been volcanic eruptions, there have been asteroids that have hit Earth. These things have happened in the normal course. I think Dastoji Dala wrote a book which was about our perfecting world. He didn't say we have an imperfect world. He spoke about a perfecting universe, that we have a perfecting world. And we have a small part to play over there. The concept of evil in the Zoroastrian tradition is that evil has no existence of its own. Evil is merely the absence of good. It's the equivalent of darkness does not have an existence of its own. Can we bring darkness in this room which has light? If I switch off the light, darkness will come in. That means you move away from light and darkness comes in. You move away from Asha and you bring Angara in. So Angara has no existence of its own. Asha has existence. You move away from Asha and in comes Angara. That's it. That is what evil is about. And this is where we find that even in this beautiful story of Faridun, who binds or enchains Zohak with Mount Damavan. We heard that story as children, that this evil demon who we refer to as Azi Dahak. Azi Dahak means one with 10 evils or 10 vices that human beings have. So Azi Dahak or Zohak is the epitome of all evil. And Faridun has not killed him, because that which does not exist cannot be killed. He has only bound him to the mountain. And look at the beauty of this allegory. The allegory says he is enchained to Mount Damavan. And in the night, when there is darkness, his chains become loose. He starts licking them and he begins to get free. But just when it's darkest, the rooster crows and there is dawn and light comes and Zohak is bound back to the mountain. What does it talk about? That yes, evil is the equivalent of darkness. When there is light, darkness vanishes. When there is Asha, Angra vanishes. And this is where beautifully in the Zamyadyast, the last paragraph is most inspiring. Zamyadyast is the yash we have dedicated to earth itself. Zamyadyazat. It speaks about Akem Mano, that is the evil mentality. That Akem Mano smites, that it hits you. But Vahu Mano shall smite it back. The only way to fight or to smite Akem Mano is through Vahu Mano. And it says in the end what happens? In the end, it doesn't speak about evil or Akem Mano being destroyed. It says, and this is Kavaji Edalji Kanga's literal translation, the evil Angra Mainyu shall bow down and flee, run away, and become powerless. The power is gone because Vahumana shall prevail. And this is an affirmation that the Zamyadyas gives us. We again speak about, and probably I'll just take the last minute on that, Adarbad Manaspan, a wonderful high priest of the Sasanian period. He speaks about that he derives 6 comforts when evil hits him. He says, first of all, I'm grateful that it was no worse than what it is right now, that evil when it struck me. Second, he says, I'm glad it hit my body, my tanu, and not my spirit or my urvan. Third, he says, the quota of misfortune that I had probably in life is one less now. The fourth, Ahura probably attacked me because he saw that I was good. I was on the side of Ahura Mazda, so he felt very angry maybe. And he says, I'm glad he attacked me and not my family. And finally, they said, I consider this affliction of evil that has come on me a loss in the treasury of Ahriman, because I have the capacity to take it on. So many people often ask me, why do bad things happen to people? Rabbi Kushner even wrote a book on that, why bad things happen to good people. I don't ask this question. I only say, you have to ask, what can good people do when bad things happen to them? Good people will take the situation in hand. They'll say, we have a problem on hand. This has happened. Now that it has happened, what am I supposed to do? I'm not going to go around saying, oh, why did God do this? Why did God test me? For heaven's sake, God does not test you and God does not punish you. He is all loving. He is all forgiving. Why should he punish you? Why should he test you? This is not a jealous God. It's not the concept of God that we know from the Western world. This is a good, loving God. And with those words, I'll stop here. Thank you, Karishma, and thank you all for your patience.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lord.
Excellent, excellent.
We'll let the audience absorb that. Many important concepts brought out by our three speakers today. The concept of energy, physics, philosophy. We'll come back to questions and the thoughts from the participants after our next two speakers. Stay with us. It is the difference that you will see between speakers and the similarity that you will see between the speakers' interpretations that will then allow each one listening to this session now and to the recording in the future to then look at the emergent property of this whole system of texts, interpretations, and extract, distill the knowledge that resonates with you, with each one's mind. Our next speaker today is Fariborz Rahnamoon. Fariborz was born in Yazd and educated in a Catholic school in Bombay. His exposure to the Bible instigated him to research his own religion while in high school. He has a unique perspective on the Zarathustri religion and history, resulting from over 40 years of research. He says, and I quote, "The Zarathustri history has come down to us, has been written by its adversaries over the last 2,000 years, and the Avesta has been deciphered and translated by Western scholars with preconceived Greek or Abrahamic ideology, thereby leading us astray." Unquote. Fariborz's findings and views are available on his website, ancientiran.com. Fariborz is in the process right now of publishing his translation of the Gathas, and it will be available on Amazon. He has just published a word-for-word translation of the Gathas, a unique translation which is available. Since 2015, he has compiled and published a 3,000-year-old Mazda calendar based upon the Bundaishan, which requires no correction for the next 110,000 years. It is also available online at zarathushticalendar.com. Fariborz's articles are read in a variety of religious magazines. He has served the community as youth director of Sazmen Javanan Zartushti in Mumbai, the editor of Iran Zamim, a bilingual magazine from 2000 to 2008, and has also been the chairperson of the Arbab Rustam Gave Trust in Vancouver for 26 years. Director and president of ZSBC, international director of the World Zarathustri Chamber of Commerce, and chapter chair of WZCC in British Columbia. At present, he is serving as director of the WZCC British Columbia and director of Meherban and Paridok Zarathustri Education Funds, the vice president of WZO London and president of WZO Canada. Thank you, Fariborz Jan, for being with us and sharing your knowledge. Over to you.
Thank you, Karishma. With due respect to all the learned speakers who have spoken before me and those who will follow, I offer my greetings to the Mubet Council, Edward Tempton Mirza, Dr. Karishma, and everyone present here. I stand before you as a simple student of the Gathas. I wish to share with you my Gathic understanding of Ahura Mazda. We often assume that we know Ahura Mazda better than we know ourselves. We claim to know his gender, his appearance, his attitudes, and his place of dwelling. The only one who makes no such claim is Zarathustra. The Gatha speaks of two worlds or realms: the world in existence, that is the real world, and the world of thoughts. In later Avesta, these are called Giti and Mainu. Ahura Mazda belongs to the realm of thoughts. So do the soul, heaven, hell, and all the unseen concepts we believe in but cannot verify. This is why each religion offers a different narrative of these matters. And these differences are what leads to division, conflict among religions. In the entire Gatha, the name Ahura Mazda appears only twice. Yet scholars and translators have rendered God 353 times in 238 verses. Let us reflect on the two actual references. The first reference is in Yasna 28.9. Through you, not Ahura Mazda, Hashem also brings fury. Mind is the best that which strives to give good guidance for you to be worthy, mighty, satisfied, also worthy of praise. Here we are told that Ahura Mazda is not responsible for the disaster. Rather, it is Hashem. And what is Hashem? In Yasna 31.19, it is said to be the life-improving knowledge in existence. Knowledge can both improve and can destroy. A simple example will make this clear. Think of an earthquake. The safest place is an open field. We build cities because buildings improve life. But in an earthquake, they collapse and kill. The recommendation is not to blame God, but to use our minds to build structures that will withstand earthquakes. The other mention, only other mention of Ahura Mazda as a proper noun is in Yasna 33.6. It says, he who studies Asha rightly with his thoughts through best observance, from him arises thoughts that present a mental challenge. Therefore, they long for Ahura Mazda's vision and offer reverence. When we study nature and observe its intricacies, we long for Ahura Mazda's vision and offer reverence. Zarathustra never claims to have seen that vision. Neither did Abraham, neither did Moses, nor anyone else. It is only we, the self-centered humans, who seem to know God so well and think the creator of the universe has nothing better to do than to watch us earthlings 24/7. The first step then is to shed this ego. Stop believing that we are so important that the God of the universe must constantly monitor our deeds, rewarding and punishing us. In the Gathas, Mazda when alone means wisdom, and Ahura by itself means creation or existence. Ferdowsi calls it John Okherad. Thus, Ahura Mazda is best understood as a creation of wisdom. Isn't that what we are doing? Though we have never seen God, we speak as though we know everything about him. We are creating God that we want to see. Zarathustra instead urges us to seek knowledge, to keep refreshing the world, and to bring our thoughts closer to reality. As stated in Yasna 30.9, and indeed may we be those who refresh the world of wisdom and the world of in existence. We lovingly bring together, and Asha be that which brings harmony to the mind whenever perception is weak. Let me now touch briefly on our traditions. Zoroastrianism as a religion is older than Zarathustra. We celebrate Jamshedi Nowruz, believed to have been established by Shah Jamshid some roughly 10,000 years ago, after the Ice Age. He was the fourth king of the Pishtadian dynasty. Still earlier was the grandson of Qumars, Hushang Shah, the second king, who discovered how to light a fire at will, leading us to its veneration. Our ancestors once lived in Aryanam Veja, in the Arctic. There only 2 seasons existed. We continue to commemorate them through Meidyo Shaham Gambar. Meidyo Shaham means midsummer, marking the height of Arctic summer in the month of temperate summer, the first month of temperate summer, in the month of Tir. That's the beginning of summer at where we presently live. And the Ayataram Gambar, the coming of winter, marking the onset of the Arctic winter on the 30th day of the present autumn. Nowruz is a cultural celebration. Gambar and reverence to fire are religious observance. My point is this: Zoroastrianism as practice is not confined to the Gathas and often stands apart from them. The Gatha encourages us to be seekers, not blind believers. Belief concerns what cannot be proven, seeking concerns what can be learned and lived. So let us not recite the Gathas on the last 5 days of the year. Let us study them. The translation I have quoted today are from my own work, the Mazda Gatha. It is the first and only word-for-word translation of the Gathas ever published, now available worldwide on Amazon. It reflects the thought of Zarathustra, not those of the scholars. Allow me to close with 2 more verses that capture the truth in Zarathustra's message. 31, Yasna 31.11 says, with wisdom in the beginning, communities created laws with their thoughts and intelligence. Then to the framework, they gave life through rituals and guidance. Thus, they created a faith, a religion of their choice. So that is how religion, he says, was created. And how true. And finally, it is indeed our safe refuge. It means the earth. It is indeed our safe refuge. It is for our progress. Gives strength to good creation of the mind as a gift. And through Asha's wisdom, vegetation grows. In existence, originally, life was thus truly born. Nature is millions of years older than humans. It has a memory. It flows. It is Ravan. It physically flows from one generation to another. Thank you.
Thank you, Fariborjan. When you talked about Zoroastrianism being older than Zarathustra, I suppose you mean the Mazda Deen is older than Zarathustra, because I think Zoroastrianism as a faith is what Zarathustra taught. But we'll come back to your thoughts on this as a question later on.
No, just let me make it clear. What I'm saying is Zoroastrianism as practiced today. We practice things which were there before Zarathustra. Jamshedi Nowruz was there before, Gambars were there before. So what we practice today is 10,000 years old.
And that was the Mazda Snidin. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Please feel free to put your questions into the chat, but feel free to raise your digital hand to ask those questions later on. Not all webinars give our participants this freedom, but we do because your voice is important. Our next speaker today is a professor who teaches across the world, Professor Jamshid Choksi. With a BA from Columbia University and a PhD from Harvard, he's a distinguished professor at the Indiana University, Bloomington. Jamshid was nominated by the US President and confirmed by the US Senate as a member of the Council overseeing the National Endowment for the Humanities. He's an elected Fellow of American Academy of Arts and Sciences, of the Royal Asiatic Society, of the American Numismatic Society, and of the Explorers Club. Choksi has held fellowships from the Harvard University of Fellows as a junior fellow, the Institute for Advanced Studies at Princeton, NEH, Guggenheim Foundation, the Center for Advanced Study in the Behavioral Sciences, the American Philosophical Society, and the American Academy of Religion. He has also been a Phi Beta Kappa visiting scholar. Jamshid is the author of Purity and Pollution in Zoroastrianism, published in 1989, Conflict and Cooperation in Medieval Iranian Society, published in 1997, and Evil, Good, and Gender in Zoroastrian Religious History, published in 2002, and is editor of Gifts to a Magus, 2013. Thank you, Jamshid, for being with us today, and over to you for your thoughts.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and many thanks to all of you for spending a few minutes listening to me. Rather than my, shall we say, presenting my views, I thought what I should do is provide you in the few minutes I have with some snippets from the Gathas. Now, I do understand we Zoroastrians spend a lot of time, I would say, nitpicking over translations of the Gathas. We can go, and I do feel we could go with one of many different scholarly translations, and we would be perfectly fine. Well, I am going to present for you some passages in PowerPoint in the hope that you'll get some idea of how the Gathas presented Zarathustra. Okay, so let me try to share my screen, and I presume everyone can hear me. Yes, excellent. And let me know if the share screen comes across, okay? That's the next point here. And let me see if I can get this up here. There we go. Are you seeing my presentation here?
Not yet.
You were not
Try
seeing.
once more. No.
You.
Try once more.
Let me
Don't
try
worry, everyone.
again.
This is a good time. This is a good time for you to
Okay,
think
are we
about
still? Are we showing the share screen?
Yes,
No?
thank you very much.
You are okay. Excellent, wonderful. So then let me, now that we have the share screen up, let me get the. Here we go. Okay, so everyone can see the screen. Let's take it from here. So what I want to talk about today is Ahura Mazda's major characteristics as presented in the Gathas. Okay, so let's start. I have 15 slides to get through, so it'll be pretty quick here, but they will be recorded so you can go back to them. I cannot hear you. Yeah.
Jamshid, my request is for you to finish what you have to say. Well paced. Please don't rush.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So we'll start with some of the characteristics, or sort of working our way down. And just to show you, as some of you may know, the oldest manuscript is in the Bodleian Library, and I'm showing you the folio that corresponds to Yasna 28.1 here. So, first characteristic, our Mazda is holy. Okay? And I've given you here some of the Yasna passages in the Gathas where the reference is. And you have this passage, I realize you are holy, O Ahura Mazda, when I see you. And I would say that Ahura Mazda is referred to by name both as Mazda Ahura, Ahura Mazda. Sometimes the two are separate, but it is clear the reference is to the wise Lord or the Lord of wisdom, however you want to see that. So the first concept I would say is that our Mazda is holy. Second, he is the primordial or primal one. Again, I've given you two references of several from the Gathas. He is the originator. He is the originator of good thought. He is the creator of righteousness. He is the most vigorous and wisest of the spiritual Lord. So he is the supreme Ahura. Yasna 33:11. Our Mazda is in harmony with, linked to best righteousness, to integrity and immortality, to joy and compassion, to good actions, utterances, and thoughts. And again, you can see a range of references in the Yasna. Now, unfortunately, because of our disposition in language, we do tend to use gender pronouns. I would say just please ignore those. And focus on the slides that I am showing you. Our Mazda is all aware. The reference in the Gathas is, you see all things. Yasna 31:13. Our Mazda is the creator of the two existences, the material or corporeal and the spiritual. Our Mazda is the source of revelation. This I ask you, O Ahura Mazda, tell me truly. Now I shall proclaim that which Ahura Mazda, the omniscient one, told me. Tell me, O Ahura Mazda, what you know. Yasna 44 goes constantly 19 passages that have questions. 45:3 and 48:2. Tell me, O Ahura Mazda, what do you know? Ahura Mazda is also the responder to calls of support and assistance. We find this not just in the Gathas, but in the Yashts and other texts. When one seeks Ahura Mazda's support or assistance, particularly if one is seeking it for a righteous, good endeavor, the texts tell us that Ahura Mazda responds. Particularly if our request for support and assistance come through righteousness and good thought. Once again, a few Gathic passages to help you on the way. Ahura Mazda is said to be the bestower of stability and strength. He is also the grantor of mercy. Couple of passages again, Yasna 43:1 for strength and stability, and Yasna 33:11 for mercy. Ahura Mazda, we are told, is gratified by devotees when they engage in righteous actions that are performed in reverence with good thought. So intent is extremely important. Again, a couple of Gathic passages where you can find these ideas. We're told that Ahura Mazda is the one who knows and keeps account of people's merits and demerits. That Ahura Mazda is the one who will oversee the day of recompense for good, bad, and balanced deeds. And again, I have given you a few passages where you can find these ideas. What I hope you see is that I'm trying to progress from Ahura Mazda as the notion of the original spirit of the creator through the human interaction portion to the end of times, if you wish, because we are told that Ahura Mazda is the one who makes existence brilliant for those who follow righteousness. And this is contrasted to the darkness that evil ones bring upon themselves. So back to the notion of human choice. Therefore, in a sense, Ahura Mazda is the source and the granter of the gifts of good existence for all times to those who practice and master the utterances and actions of the good religion. Let me end the share screen here and come back. So what I hope that you have seen in these few minutes is that you can go to the Gathas. Maybe worry less about the minutiae of translations and focus on the essence of what the texts tell us. The majority of individuals have quite understandably not studied Avestan or Pahlavi Middle Persian, and therefore they have to rely on translations. But what I would say is that one can take the essence of what Ahura Mazda represents, what Ahura Mazda represented in the Gathas, and from the Gathas, the exegesis, the interpretations that occurred later on. But I hope what you have seen in these few brief passages is how one can conceive of how the Gathas present Ahura Mazda. From the originator, all the way through the relationship with humans, to the notion that there is an end. There have been discussions here about pain, suffering, and all the rest. There is the notion that Ahura Mazda, as the good creator, will ultimately, at the end of time, frasho kareti, kareti kardan in modern Persian, to make. Frasho, direct cognate with the English word fresh, refresh. In order to refresh creation, to make it splendid again. And I think that as we face the turmoils of our times, of past times and future times, we should keep in mind that the Gathas can lead us and guide us with the notion of what the divinity is, has been, and will be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jamshid. We're now approaching that time where our speakers come back, all of them in order, for 3 minutes each, to give their takeaways or their final message based on their own talk and maybe respond to something that they have heard in other people's talk. So either their takeaway message and or their responses to what they have heard. The speakers may also like to utilize this time to ask a question, and then we can come back to discussion time for the answers. So let's first go to Mabed Saheb, Dr. Puladi. Dr. Meherban Puladi, Mabed Saheb, would you like to give us a few messages, final messages on Ahura Mazda from your thoughts?
I'd first we must know ourselves, then try to approach him. And that the divine light of Ahura Mazda may always shine within you and the Ahura Mazda is great and wisdom, and I recite part of Gata, Tatsva, Peresa, Eresh, Moi, Vaucha, Ahura. Thank you.
You might want to give us the translation of that line from, I think it's Yasna 44, which starts every verse of Yasna 44. Give us your translation of Tattva Peresa Ereshmoy Voucher.
Yes. The Ahura Mazda has created the universe for our happiness. The question of Zartosh of Ahura Mazda.
Sepas Shama. Thank you, Meherban Sahib. Let us now go to our second speaker, Arvad Adil, for his takeaways or final thoughts. Do unmute yourself, Arvad Adil.
Yeah, my takeaways are across everything that I heard from the last presentation as well as today, are that Ahura Mazda is a very complicated topic to express, as we can all see, but the trends that I've started to see are, it depends on where in history you're looking at Ahura Mazda from, right? So a lot of us have been heavily influenced by the later literature and later translations of what Ahura Mazda is, as well as interactions with other faiths that we've been with. So in those situations, our expressions of what Ahura Mazda is or who Ahura Mazda is have evolved from the original thought. If you consider Ahura Mazda in the Gatha as independent of any other literature that's kind of taken place after it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Faribos John, would you like to give your final thoughts or takeaways or questions?
Sorry. Yeah. What we know of Ahura Mazda is basically from the Mainu world. It's from the thoughts that have developed over the centuries, over the millennium. And that is what has overtaken the Gathas. My only request to all of you and everyone is that try to study the Gathas word by word, not what translators and scholars have translated. Because what they have done is they have advanced the thoughts, their own thoughts into the Gathas. They've taken that word like the verse that I read where it says to the framework. Let me bring it up. And it says, then to the framework they gave life through rituals and guidance. That is how religion was formed. If you look at this, they have taken it and translated as the skeleton, how God gave breath to the skeleton of human beings. So what I mean is they have put their thoughts into the Gathas. It is not a translation, word by word translation. They have taken words from the Gathas and made sentences. Please try and study it word by word, looking at the Avesta words. The reason why we have so many translations that are different is just because of this, because of the thoughts of the scholars who have translated it. And it is thoughts that have developed later on in Zoroastrianism under the influence of Abrahamic religion, under the influence of the Greeks. Remember, we lost to Alexander. After we lost to Alexander for 500 years, there was no Zoroastrianism. Parthians were not Zoroastrians. Parthians were followers of Mitra. The last king, Ardavan, he tries to collect the Avesta. What does it mean? It means that there was no Avesta among the people. He's trying to collect it. The king had no Avesta. He was trying to collect it. And the Sasanians completed. So for 500 years, we had no Zoroastrianism as
Thank
a
you.
religion of the land. The people were Zoroastrians, but not the dynasties. Thank you.
Thank you. Jamshid Choksi next, and I'm hoping that these 3 minutes could be taken as reels for the youth to share across, while the 10 or 15-minute talks are taken as longer videos that people can extract. So this is a very powerful time for our speakers to succinctly create a reel.
Well,
Hopefully.
okay, I
Over to you,
will follow your instructions. So maybe the takeaway of Ahura Mazda in the Gathas is to see Ahura Mazda firstly as holy, secondly as primordial, as original, as the creator of all aspects of the universe that are good, the good material, the good spiritual. To see Ahura Mazda as the wisest, the most vigorous or capable. To see Ahura Mazda as representing harmony, righteousness and order, first of all, Asha, firstly, but also integrity and the sense of wholeness, the sense of immortality linked to that. To see Ahura Mazda is linked to that phrase we use all the time, which is found in reverse in the Gathas, and then also in the later Yasna Haptanghaiti, namely in reverse good actions, good utterances, good thoughts. To think, to be able to speak it, and to be able to implement it. To realize that the divinity is omniscient, that the divinity attempts to assist, to guide humans, to guide creation through revelation. We often in English use the word illumination. Think of the receiving of revelation as the breaking of dawn, if you wish to. We've had references from our earlier speakers to the notion of dawn. So the divinity as a helper and a guide, but also as a friend, something that has already been mentioned by several of our speakers, as someone who is merciful. And the notion of mercy is the actions of the divinity that we are told, even in the Gathas, occurs at the end of time, with this notion of frashokerity. And finally, if you were to jump from the Gathas to the opening of the passage that Darius I had written on his tomb relief at Naxarostan. Ahura Mazda is the great God who created the sky above, the earth below, who created humans. Those are material creations. And then Ahura Mazda, we are told, creates that first immaterial creation. The last of those gifts that Ahura Mazda gives, we are told. Sky above, earth below, humans, and then happiness for humanity. I think that is very important in understanding the notion of the divinity. And it links from Darius back to the Gathas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jamshid. Noshir, the man who can link all concepts together in a takeaway for us today. Go ahead. But you do need to unmute. I can't read your mind.
Thank you, Karishma. While others were speaking, I just kind of noted down 4 takeaways. The first is, it reminds me of what the preamble to the Yasna says, the colophon to the Yasna, that there is only one path, and that of Asha. All others are no paths. So there is only one path for us, and that is Asha, which leads us to Ahura Mazda. It's only by walking on the path of Asha can we experience Ahura Mazda and attain friendship with Ahura Mazda. Asha, which is variously described as truth, righteousness, and divine order. Walking on the path of Asha helps us to live in harmony with the very spirit of wisdom, which is Ahura Mazda. I see Ahura Mazda as the spirit of wisdom. Do not try to look up to God in the sky, for he does not dwell in the sky. He dwells in the sky, he dwells in earth, he dwells in the waters, he dwells in fire. He is in all the good creations. And he again, as Ramyara told us last Sunday, that's only the way we put a gender. There is no he or she to Ahura Mazda. Ahura Mazda is beyond gender. I mean, but we generally refer to Ahura Mazda in the masculine. The most important part is for those who are obsessed with the concept of evil, that evil is simply the absence of good. Angra is not the opposite of Asha. Angra is moving away from Asha. When you move away from Asha, when you move away from truth, when you move away from righteous conduct, when you move away from harmony, you have invited Angra in, because nature abhors a vacuum. When Asha moves out, Angra comes in. It's as simple as that. And yes, the final thing, our religion is about happiness. Our religion is about Ushta. Our religion is not about pleasing God. You don't please God with fasting. We don't fast. We don't please God with celibacy. In fact, Ahura Mazda is most pleased when a man is married. He has a home, he has children, he has dogs, he has cattle, he has fire in the house. That's what the texts speak about. Our religion is about happiness. And in our happiness, Ahura Mazda, or creation itself, rejoices with happiness. That's my takeaway.
Thank you, Noshir. I suppose that's given me the first point to disagree with you upon. And I'd like to hear other people's disagreements with what they have heard today, but I'll come back to that. So how do we go about the discussion session? In Yasna 30.2, Zarathustra Sahib has given us the guidance and we will follow it. Listen, reflect, and then apply your own discretion. Vichittaya. Do it individually, in line with Mazda. The next verse tells us to do this so that we put spenta mainyu forward, that progressive spirit forward. And the purpose is clear, to build enlightenment, but that enlightenment that comes to one who gives it to others. So when you ask your questions or you share your takeaways as participants in today's discussion, whether speakers or the audience, we have a purpose. And final purpose comes in Yasna 44, verse 16. Mazda maya mai vashika mai chit. Mazda to one who gives faith for growth and belief to others, as I see it. So let's spotlight each of our speakers. They will also be able to ask questions. You will be able to ask questions to them. Adil Sahib, if you don't turn on your camera, I can't spotlight you. Thank you. Likewise, Jamshid. I think we're missing Jamshid just now, but when he comes back, we will spotlight him. Let's start with the questions.
Oh, I've been
Those who
here.
want to...
I've been here. I just turned the
Yes.
camera off to save
Yes.
everyone's bandwidth.
Thank you. So now we start with your takeaways and your questions. Put your digital hand up and ask. And go in order, just follow. And if you have a question for a speaker, address it to that speaker. If it's open, we'll give it a chance to each speaker to speak. I'm not taking things from the chat just now because I want people to contribute and add to the recording. You are here to share your thoughts. Yes, Dinsha Balsara. Please go ahead.
Dinsha needs to unmute himself.
Sorry, I'll unmute. Yeah, I thank everyone for the wonderful presentations. They were excellent. They were highly polished and highly illuminative. I was intrigued by what Edward Adil Minoche Hamji described as his infinite loop, kind of going from pre-empire to Achaemenid to Sasanian to post Islamic. And it was intriguing to me because of the time periods. First of all, I would say that there were wars between the Roman Empire and the Persian Empire, which actually document the kings of the Parthian period who actually gave fight to the Romans. It is because of that fight that Iran survived as it is, so that it could pass on to the Sasanian Empire in the form that it did. But it's interesting and very exciting that at about the same time that Constantine was assembling
Sorry, Dinsha, I'm going to interrupt you just very briefly. What is the point you're making with reference to the understanding, building the wisdom of understanding Ahura Mazda? What is your contribution to that?
I'm trying to
And
get
then your question to the speaker.
Okay, so it is interesting that during the Sasanian era, at about the same time that the Bible was being assembled by Emperor Constantine, the Cordia Vesta was also being assembled in Sasanian times. And we see in the Cordia Vesta that the religion goes from a philosophical viewpoint to a more prescriptive viewpoint. Such is also the case in Christianity and Islam. It's more; these are more prescriptive religions, and so in some sense, there must have been at some point. Is there any evidence that there was a need felt to move towards a prescriptive religion, which is easier to kind of prescribe to people and make them follow in terms of prescriptives and rituals that kind of keep them in place rather than complete philosophical superstructure of the Gathas, which was actually unintelligible by the time one gets to the Sasanian era. That is why they had
Thank you.
at that time.
I think I've got your question now, and I hope Ervad has. Thank you. That was of the right sort of format, a takeaway and a question. If I could ask the audience to condense that into about 30 seconds or a minute succinctly. Ervad, over to you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And I think that you took away the concept that I was trying to present in a good and succinct way. The point of note that I would make is that our religion isn't the only one that's pragmatic versus dogmatic. If you look at the New Testament, right, like Jesus's takeaways were kind of in a parable kind of format, whereas like the later integrations of like Paul kind of take on more of a dogmatic view. So that's one point. And then the other kind of consideration is around the kind of contemporary influences that were going on. So one of the points that I was trying to point out earlier is that during the Babylonian exile, we had a deep interaction with the Jews during the Achaemenid period. So those kind of like thoughts kind of went back and forth. There's a lot of talk between Zoroastrianism influencing Judaism. Judaism inherently probably influenced back Zoroastrianism. Christianity, there was the war with the Romans. So I have some thoughts on that, which we can go into later. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
If I may just add, this is a period, the period that's being referred to is a period where essentially you have two religions that were producing written corpuses, Christianity, and also let's not forget the other religion of Iranian origin, Manichaeism. And those two religions are certainly serving as, shall we say, a pushing force to compel Zoroastrianism and Judaism to start writing down their textual scriptures. And then when Islam comes on the scene, and you have the notion of a minority religious status by having a revealed scripture, that notion of a written text gets further reinforced.
Thank you. if any of the other speakers wants to add to a question addressed to a specific speaker, please just interject when you're ready. Delna, over to you.
Hi, can you hear me? Let me go to my question. Sorry, I'm not prepared. Yeah, thanks everyone for giving us the opportunity to attain some light about our faith. My question is for Professor Choksi and maybe others, as he said, that is the one who knows and keeps account of people's merits and demerits. Does it mean that we have the concept of karma in Zoroastrianism? And if yes, then is it from Hinduism?
No, in fact, actually, I have never seen a reference to karma in Zoroastrianism until modern times. I believe it's something picked up largely by Parsis and then spread. The notion that is being referred to in Zoroastrianism is this concept that you see even in the Gathas, where Zarathustra talks about how the good people, he refers to them as his followers, he and his followers will cross the bridge. So there's this notion of what happens to the soul after death, the notion of judgment, and then the further reference to frashokerity, the refreshing of the world at the end of time. So the idea of there being a ledger keeping, it has to do with what happens to the mortal soul after death, but until the end of time, because ultimately our Mazda is, as we have discussed, a good divinity. So at the end of time, punishment must end. And also there's the additional stress that is placed, particularly later on in the theology, to clarify this, to point out that it is not Ahura Mazda who punishes, but even the Gathas refers to the fact that each any individual essentially makes their own choices and determines their own fates. So karma, no, sorry.
Thank you very much. I would like to interject here and share a reference from the Gatha that, in my opinion, addresses the question. I disagree with Jamshid, Professor Choksi, on this particular point, subject to interpretation. And that is the verse 43.5, in which it says, Akem akai vanguim ashim vangave. So this translates into generally acceptable words. Evil comes out of evil, and good comes of good. In other words, the concept in physics as action and outcome. To me, that is a direct interpretation of what in other faiths is referred to as karma. And our speakers would like to disagree with that or provide a better explanation of verse 43.5, I will be most grateful, because the Zoroastrian faith to me is a faith of science as well as philosophy. Yes, Jamshid.
Good begets good, evil begets evil. That does not mean the notion of karma. What that means is your good actions will lead to a good outcome in this life and a good outcome after death. Your evil actions, you choose. It's something like this. If you choose to hang out with good people, hopefully you will have a good life. If you go join a gang of thugs, it's a pretty dismal life. You make choices. That's not karma. The Hindu and even the Buddhist notions of karma, we bandy the word in our societies of karma around. Karma is not something that just, I step on a dog, the dog bites me. That's not karma. Karma is a much, in the religious sense of Buddhism and Buddhism and Hinduism, is a much longer notion that of things that go across lifespans, and not just individual lifespans, but multiple lifespans. And that's the other aspect in Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism is a one-shot deal. It is not cyclical time. It is an arrow. There's a beginning, there's an end. There's time before, time after. So, sorry, karma doesn't exist in Zoroastrianism.
And thank you, Professor Choksi. And I want to echo that because I had a interesting debate with my father-in-law and my father yesterday about this. And we got into the word destiny. So they were talking about you should be able to choose your own destiny, which does kind of sound like karma, but the word destiny implies a predetermined nature. But by choosing your own destiny, you're essentially, as Professor Choksi said, is you're choosing to hang out with good people. That leads to, in a probability to your scientific point, of good things happening to you. Now, can bad things happen to you even if you do good things? Sure. But is that karma? No, that's just probabilistic nature of living.
If I may just add to what Adil just said, the notion, yes, the primordial question that everyone asks, I think irrespective of particular religions, is why do bad things happen to good people? The Zoroastrian explanation that you see even in the Gathas is that there's a primordial choice. There is the one who does the best things, who chooses good and therefore becomes Mazda. And that there's another who chooses the worst things and therefore becomes Angra. And the explanation is that the divinity provides the best, and there is a battle with the evil one who causes harm, destruction. And Zarathustra emphasizes that we should be choosing to do think the best thoughts, do the say the best words, do the best deeds. That doesn't mean that that you're not going to die. I mean, death in Zoroastrianism is presented ultimately as that end, and it's presented as an end by evil. So I don't think we should see. I think we should, if one wants to think about karma, one should think about karma in the truly deep religious sense of Hinduism and Buddhism, and not in our, shall we say, popular nuance. Karma does not act on a daily basis in reaction to your actions or your thoughts.
Over to you, Susan. Thank you, speakers. Susan, over to you. When you've raised your hand, please be ready to unmute.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Hi. This question is for Fariborz Namon. Could you expand on your discussion about the worshiping of Mitra, what led to it and what left us from that? Whatever you feel comfortable sharing. Thank you.
You mean the Ashkanians, the Parthians, right?
Yes.
The Parthians, it is very clear with the names of the kings and that they didn't have the Avesta till the last king, that they were Parthians. They were followers of Mitra. It is very clear in the history. Nowhere where the Zoroastrians, still the last king wanted to collect the Avesta. And he was defeated by the Sasanians, and the Sasanians completed the collection of the Avesta. Not that the people were not Zoroastrians, but the rulers, the dynasty was not a Zoroastrian dynasty. And that is why they were collecting the Avesta.
I think the question was about Mitra and how people started venerating. So about Mitraism, if I remember Susan's question correctly.
Mitraism is an older religion. And if you read the Shahnameh, it tells us that the older kings and even Rostam was a follower of Mitra. And when he was invited to Zoroastrianism, he said, I'll keep on with my Mitra. It is very clear in the Shahnameh. And when the Alexander defeated us, he wanted to get rid of Zoroastrianism, as you can see with the works that he has done. And he promoted, according to Plutarch, his historian, he promoted the ancient religion of Mitraism back into among the Iranian people, and that's when they became Mitraic. The soldiers and the traders, the Roman soldiers and the traders, fell in love with Mitra and took it to Europe, and that's where we have in Europe we have the churches where they have Mitra cutting the throat of the cow, and Jesus finally represents Mitra. His
Thank you.
birthday on 25th, etc., 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 is all about Mitra.
If the participants could keep the focus on the question, what is Ahura Mazda? And relate their takeaways and questions to building knowledge about Ahura Mazda, I'll be very grateful. Professor Mehran Seferi next.
Well, I want to thank everyone and the organizers, the speakers, for such a delightful seminar. And I hope we can, at the end, come up with a conclusion and a definition that everybody agrees, because I see so many different definitions. I'll take my takeaway on what is Ahura Mazda. I built on the older version, Mazda Ahura. Instead of Ahura being the word and Mazda being the adjective, I think the adjective is Ahura. So Mazda is infinite knowledge who creates, and it's like a generative AI at ultimate, that we have all this knowledge, all this wisdom, and it allows us, it allows the system, the nature to create. I want to ask the question to Mehran if he's still available. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Puladi for giving a speech. And I'm delighted that despite all the internet and language problems, he represents the Iranian mobiles, the high priest. And I wish to ask that other mobiles participate as well. Question, I don't know if Mobet Puladi, I don't see his picture and his name. He mentioned that God is the father and brother. I believe in Asha. I believe 2 + 2 is always 4. God creates, but God doesn't, or Ahura Mazda does not intervene. So we can't just say, God, help us do this thing. And like a brother, he changes things. So I want to know his opinion on when he means the father and the brother, how Ahura Mazda intervenes in Asha. Thank you.
Let's hold on to that question for a moment. We'll hope Mohammad Said Puladi comes back. We appreciate there are internet restrictions. Nasawan, please, over to you.
Yes, thank you. I found, I just kind of piggyback on what Mehran said, that we hope we can come up with a conclusion. I think that's a wrong approach, because there is no conclusion. And we are going to be seeking, and if we look at the scientific method, this is the best knowledge we have today. Tomorrow we may have more knowledge. Okay, so let me switch gears to the takeaway. I found Adil's presentation most compelling, especially based on what last week, where you had a whole bunch of people who really anthropomorphized Ahura Mazda. He's got attributes and this and all that. And I think I just want to give my understanding of Ahura Mazda, and any speaker can correct it. We live in 2 realms, the physical realm and the metaphysical realm. And I think Adil sort of pointed to that in the metaphysical realm is where Ahura Mazda comes in. It's just all in the nature of thought and rightness. Those are human things. And so when we come to when bad things happen to good people, that's just meaningless, and it's a confusion of categories, because people are in the physical realm and things happen. And sorry to use the bad language, but people say like shit happens. It happens. Okay, cancer happens. It's not necessarily bad. Bad and good are judgments we make in the metaphysical realm and not in the physical realm. And I think we are confusing the two. because when we live in the physical realm, we have to be guided by the metaphysical realm, and that's where Ahura Mazda comes in. Ahura Mazda has very little to do with the physical realm, the so-called creator and all that. It was all borrowed from the Judeo-Christian Abrahamic thing, because we didn't want to be left behind. And I think that happened with Wilson and India and all that kind of stuff. So I'll end there.
And before I pass it on to Ervedadil for his response, if any, would you like to tell us where you come from and what you do, if it's relevant?
Sure. I originally come from Bombay. Right now I'm in Cambridge. I was the co-founder of the Harvard Gatha group, which we ran for about 15 years. I just taught a course at the Harvard Institute of Learning and Retirement called Zoroastrianism, the religion that might have been ours. And that comes from the Viking Bible, which says that had the battles of Marathon and Salamis won by the Persians, Zoroastrianism would have been the dominant religion of the West, and not Christianity.
Thank you. That is most interesting to know and build the network through.
And
I'll leave my number.
my friend is Kavas Desai. We were in college together.
Splendid. Thank you. Ervedadil, and thank you for sharing your thoughts so clearly. Ervedadil, any response at all?
Yeah, I think that, yeah, I appreciate you coming to a similar conclusion to me. And one follow-up point to that is around the Zoroastrian relation to Western thought, is that if you consider Zoroastrianisms at the time to be the East and the Romans at the time of Christ to be the West, if you read the end of the Bible where Pontius Pilate asks the question to Christ, what is truth? You consider that if Christ was in the Persian Empire, there was a deep respect and veneration for Asha and truth. So the world could have been very different depending on where certain geopolitical and religious events took place. So that's my thought on that.
Thank you. Paul Gozer, over to you.
Hi there. Thank you for the chance to tell you guys my take on the matter. My name is Bahram Rajavan. To echo what Faribor said to a degree, Zoroastrianism falls into place for me if you focus on the existence of the two worlds. And thank you, Dr. Chosky, for verifying that this is a very seminal and ancient division. If there really are two worlds, the real world and the world of the mind, then it strikes me that Ahura might be the creator, supervisor, maintainer. Let's not anthropomorphize Ahura, but that it may be something that has created or maintained, created, Dr. Chosky, if it's primordial, the Gathic world. And Mazda might be the creator, maintainer, supervisor, whatever, of the Menog world. And the reason everything falls together for me is because of what you said, Dr. Chosky, that this entity, Ahura Mazda, is an entity that keeps score, that can be appealed to for support, blah, blah, blah. How are we going to have such an entity without anthropomorphizing such an entity? Well, if you, instead of as a couple of speakers have said, just considering Ahura Mazda to be purely a creature of the Menog world, if we also focus on the fact that the Ahura part of it is the creator or maintainer of the Gathic world, to me at least, things make more sense. Because if he's the creator of what a lot of translations say is righteousness, let's just call it Asha. And if Asha is completely in charge of the Gathic world, one could say that because Asha is invariant, never changes, that Ahura Mazda, or the Ahura part, provides for support by providing Asha, and the Mazda part provides support by providing us with Bahman, or the good mind, which can recognize Asha and allow us to modify our behaviors so that we are more in concert with Asha and therefore gain strength and support without having done so actively, like a Santa Claus anthropomorphized God reaching out of somewhere of heaven, or maybe even the Menog world, if one translates it as the world of spirit. No, if one focuses on the fact that there is only one world, this world, and that we're kind of trapped in the world of our minds, the Menog world, and that our job is to try to erase our Druj, which lives only in the Menog world, so that we can see Asha in the Getic world more clearly, thereby becoming Ashavan, and thereby being able to make good decisions, then we will acquire support. And you said,
Do you have a question? Do you have a question now?
no, you asked for people to volunteer their
Yes. Takeaways.
thoughts about
Excellent.
Ahura Mazda, so that's what I'm doing. And I'm almost done. Dr. Shosky, you said that Ahura Mazda keeps score. Well, if there are no miracles, if there is no magic, then one's failures and one's successes build on top of each other. And so again, we don't have to have an anthropomorphized Santa Claus keeping score in a book. Our life paths are an accumulation of successes and failures based on our good decisions or bad decisions. The one thing that I don't understand, and maybe you could help me, Dr. Chosky, is Freshokarti and mercy, because Asha is pretty cruel. She doesn't make exceptions. Thank you for listening.
Very valid share and
Thank you.
important
Interesting comments. And I will notice that yes, we all have a tendency to slip into grammatical genders. You did so right at the end when you referred to Asha as she. I did it at the beginning when I referred to Ahura Mazda as he. The reality is that even the Avestan language does have gender, masculine, feminine, and neuter. And so the reality is language is gendered, and what has happened in the evolution of language over the centuries is, so for example, if you look at Old Persian has less of that than Avestan. Middle Persian is less than Old Persian. Farsi has no gender. I mean, right. So you know it from context. So we're moving from essentially inflected languages to analytic languages. So that's a change in the way in which language structure works. The interesting thing in response to your main question is, if we look at the Gathas does not divide, and later the Middle Persian texts, etc., whether you accept those or not, it doesn't really matter. Starting even with the Gathas, it doesn't divide Ahura Mazda into two, one being spiritual, one being material or corporeal. The entity is presented as the genesis, if you wish to, of both. So there is that notion that it is whole and singular, that these are interconnected. So now, if it helps you in your understanding of a divinity, of the world, to split it, that is your choice. That's not what the texts don't make that distinction. I think what we need to sort of, if we look at it from the viewpoint of history of religions, we see there's essentially sort of three categories of ancient Indo-Iranian divinities. One are the Bhagas, the apportioners, the bestowers. In fact, when Darius refers to Ahura Mazda, he refers to Ahura Mazda as the greatest of the Bhagas. Okay, so Ahura Mazda as one word is referred to as the greatest of the Bhagas. So you have this category of Bhagas. We also find it in the Rig Veda. Then you have the Vedic Asuras, the Iranian Ahuras, the lords. That's what the word really means. And then you have the Iranian Daivas, the Indian Deva, the word that gives you Deus and all the rest, means a shining one. Those are the individuals who essentially go downwards in the Iranian tradition and rise up in the Indic tradition, Indra and all the rest, who get demonized in the Iranian tradition. So what he said, as Zoroastrianism develops, Ahura Mazda, I would say, becomes the supreme divinity. Certainly Zarathustra makes it clear that Zarathustra makes it clear that the revelation he receives, he believes, is linked to Ahura Mazda. Now later, hagiography, sacred biography of Zarathustra, will talk about Vahumana as the intercessor, bringing in between mediator, bringing the revelation and all the rest. Zarathustra is very clear that, he says, when I behold you, when I see you, that is not necessarily a physical, anthropomorphic, like I said, one can consider it, if you wish to, as the breaking of dawn. So if what I would say is that, we spend a lot of time arguing about the minutiae of texts. It really doesn't matter, as we've seen in our conversations here, whether you interpret Asha as righteousness or as order. The idea is, the basic idea is the same. Okay, it's the notion essentially of following, of having a good life and everything that means to it. And a good life in that sense doesn't mean, you grabbing everything from your neighbors. Rape, loot, and pillage doesn't fall into that notion of a good life. So that's where I would say, we should be looking at it instead of sort of, often fixating on little words. And I'm not referring to anything you said. I'm more broader discussion here. That we should, understand the religion as very much, if you wish to, particularly in troubled times, as a guide of how to live a good life. And that notion of good life does mean joy and happiness. And I would argue that if you, in fact, you find the notions of mercy, you find the notions of joy in the Gathas, in the rest of the Avesta. Darius picks it up right away. And then later on, the Bundahishan reflects both Darius and the Gathas. So if you want to be, I would say, a really good Zoroastrian, have a joyful life, helping others and living a full life. But that's my takeaway.
To focus on the question at hand, what is
Thank
Ahura
you.
Mazda?
Sorry?
Could I just come back to you?
Of course.
That Mr. Varzavan, is that right?
That's right.
Okay, I'll just give a chance to the others to come in and then please come back. Or if you'd like to put it into the chat for the speaker to think about, and then I will ask you to speak it as well.
I will.
Professor Jamshed Ghoshtaspi, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Krishma. And I would like first to thank you and Namsi for providing this opportunity to be here in this discussion and listen to the all very well spoken presenters here. My question is mainly to Faribor, Adel, and Noshir. And it has to do pretty much with the question at hand here, which is, what is my understanding of Ahura Mazda or Mazda Ahura? I want to say that my thought in this regard has been developed through the conversations that we have had in our Gatha study circle. That is a global platform for discussion, study, reading, the literal scholarly, literal translations of the Gatha, and through that, in that comparative study that we do, among different translations that we have access to, we try to go by Yasna 30 when Zarathustra says, listen, ponder upon with your thought, and then make a good decision. And of course, he doesn't say that what that decision is, but if you follow through his presentation of Zarathustra's presentation of the concepts that he has there, that good decision is a decision which is in line with Asha. So my take is that Zarathustra in Yasna 30 and the rest of Gatha, as he starts to define his system of thinking, we'll see he uses Mazda, Asha, and then Vahumana and Khashetra, and then Arbaiti and the rest of that up to Havarvatat Amaratat. Through the discussions that we have had, and I must mention the Feridun Kishavars, who just recently published a translation of his late dad, known as Mazda Khoda Nist. That translation has been published and
Jamshid
it's
sir,
available over Amazon. Yes.
do you have a question now?
Yes. Yes. The question is that my understanding of Mazda is based on the Persian interpretation of that word Mazda. Maz is mask, great, all. And Da comes from the word Danish. So Danish is knowledge. So Mazda is the great knowledge. Ahura goes the same way, and it's interpreted as Hasti, Jahana Hasti, or the existing world. So in that understanding, to me, Ahura Mazda means, or Mazda means great knowledge, knowledge of universe, existing world. It's not deity, it's not personified, it's just a concept. And we have to seek that. When we say wisdom, wisdom means that there is an entity there. But wisdom is something that you gain through your life, through your knowledge, through implication of your knowledge. So to me, Ahura Mazda is seeking knowledge of the creation. And I wanted to see that what Adele and Faribors have to say about that.
I will just, it's okay if I answer, Karishma?
Yes, please. Yes, please, Faribors.
Yeah. I will draw your attention to 30.9. It says Ahum Mazdaos. It's not Mazda, it's Mazdaos. Cha Ahura O Angaho. Everyone over here translates this as Ahura Mazda and tries to fit in the rest of the words to give it sense. But if you look at it, Ahum is the world, Mazdaos is of wisdom, and Ahura O Angahu is in existence. So it reads as the world of wisdom and in existence. That is why I'm telling you there are two worlds that in the Gathas we talk about. One is Giti and one is Menu, which we later on in Avesta classify them as Giti as Menu. Here it has nothing to do with God. But when we translate this as God, as Ahura Mazda, the whole thing messes up, and then we get all the interpretations that we have got. Our understanding of everything, our thoughts are created by the wrong translation. Mazdaos cha aurao angahu. Mazdaos is not God. Aurao is not Ahura Mazda. This is my point. Once you solve this, there are only two times when Ahura Mazda is mentioned in the Gatha as a proper noun, and that is what I told you the verses were. The whole concept changes, everything changes, and I have explained that in my translation, the Mazdiyasni Gatha. And I can't argue against all that because our interpretation and our thoughts has gone astray, according to what I understand after studying the Gathas. Thank you.
Thank you, Farjan. Over to Ervadatil.
Yeah, I'd like to echo what Faribor said, but a nuance that I'd like to point out is that a lot of the fidelity that we see in the contemporary transcriptions are lost to us due to the fact that English only has 26 letters, and the transcription of the Avestan letters are, I think, somewhere like 53 letters. So if we look at each time we ascribe Ahura Mazda, the pronunciation, like even if you watch the multimedia Yasna on SOAS, nobody's pronouncing it the same way every time, right? So Ahura Mazda, like there are multiple different pronunciations, and each of those pronunciations can mean different things at different times. And the point I'm trying to make is that before we got into the fact where we wrote everything down, this has been an oral tradition from the very beginning. So like trying to ascribe a textual view of an oral tradition loses again a lot of the fidelity associated with the chain of thought. So I hope that provides some additional clarity there.
And can I add just one more thing to what Alu said? When you translated word by word, it makes sense. What I have read for you, it makes sense, but it doesn't make the sense that we are used to. And so what the scholars do, they changed it to make sense to what people believe in. What is wrong with it saying that, and indeed we may be those that refresh the world of wisdom and the world in existence. We lovingly bring together, we have to bring these two worlds together. The thoughts has to come close to reality. And it says further, and Asha be that which brings harmony to the mind when perception is weak. When your thoughts are weak, it is Asha, it is the truth, it is the living world that will bring harmony to your thoughts. There's nothing wrong with it. Now you go and read 30.9 in whichever translation you like and see what a mess it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to Dr. Meher Master Moose. Dr. Moose?
Thank you, Karen, and all under speakers and Jaruma and NAC. My understanding is self-created universe of life and The
Dr. May, we can't hear you.
of light is what we have.
Dr. Moose, Dr. Meher Master Moose, we cannot hear you. Your line is breaking up. I think you do have something in the chat, which I will try and find and read. You've said, Ahu, self-created, creator of the universe. Ra, of light energy. Your
matter. So it's the of light energy, giver of matter is created sound.
We can't hear you.
Don't
You were breaking up, but I think we got the message. Thank you very much. Ervid Kavas Desai had his hand up earlier and then took his hand down. Do you have something to say, sir? Or ask?
The only comment I had was on Mithraism. According to the Mercian Order of St. George, in their writing Mithraism or Christianity, Constantine had a question as to whether he wanted to convert to Mithraism before he converted to Christianity. But Constantine wanted complete absolution for all his sins, which Zoroastrianism would not offer him. They said that you were responsible for your actions and you would pay for them in the hereafter. Christianity offered him complete forgiveness for his sins if he accepted the last rites. So he opted for Christianity, opted the last rites. And if he hadn't decided that, and if he had adopted Mithraism, Zoroastrianism would not have been the forgotten religion that it is today. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Delna, then Farhan Lala. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my question again. This is for anyone. My question is our relationship with Ahura Mazda two-way? And if yes, then how does it work when we pray and ask for health, justice, prosperity, etc., etc.?
Who would like to address this
Thanks.
question of a bi-directional relationship with Ahura Mazda?
I can refer to 28.1, sorry, where we are told that when you lift your hands, I'll read it. This I seek with reverence, with uplifted hands, the perfectness of the mind, wisdom. So when you lift your hand and pray, all you need to do is ask for wisdom, and the rest will be solved. You don't have to get any blessings. You have to just ask for wisdom. The first benevolence of Asha, all should aspire to achieve good creation with intelligent thoughts, thus creating harmony between existence and the inner self. This is the right translation of the prayer. If you want, you just ask for wisdom.
Thank you, Faribors. I'd like to extend that, if I may, Farhan Lala, just a moment, and then I'll hand over to you. Is link it to my question to Noshir, which I've put in the chat. Tell us if you feel that we can manifest Ahura Mazda in our life. Is there a relationship thereby to giving of ourself to manifest Ahura Mazda? And do you see that giving as related to Ra, Da? It's just your thoughts.
I would concur with that thinking, because I do believe that first it is the thought. Always is the thought that leads to the word. And the word thereafter manifests what is matter. In fact, you will find that at least in the Buddhism, it speaks about Ahura Mazda creating this universe with the recitation of the Ahunavaru, which is the equivalent of the Hindus believing that it was with the Om, the recitation of the Om, that the universe was manifest. So thought, mind, it's capable of manifesting a lot of things. So, I mean, the concept of wisdom itself is manifested with the mind. And the mind has to be made, I would say, pure with Asha, which is exercising truth, righteous conduct, and more importantly, living in sync with the divine order, because Asha is also about divine order. So Asha is one word which encapsulates a lot of concepts: truth, righteous conduct, which is about the morality, and more importantly, divine order. So yes, the concept of Radha, I would concur with it.
Thank you, Noshir.
Can
Thank you very
I
much.
can I interject over
Of
here?
course.
Yes.
Of course, please do.
See, now when we talk about creation, we talk about the Abrahamic creation. Zarathustra in the Gathas doesn't talk about the Abrahamic creation. He says, and through Asha's wisdom, vegetation grows. It's not God creating everything. It's through Asha's wisdom. And now you might see that this will be translated as God, because it says Asha's Mazda. Asha's Mazda is nothing to do with God. It says Asha's Mazda, Asha's wisdom, vegetation grows. In existence, originally, life was thus truly born. We have a different concept which has been converted into an Abrahamic concept by the translators, by the scholars. Thank you.
Okay. Farhan Lala.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for this enlightening academic discussion. I just want to say I think the beauty of the Gathas lies in its poetic revelation, and this interpretation requires a personal journey. So this question is just open to the forum. Could you just guide someone who, with the right resources and literature, who's beginning their journey for an introduction and deeper understanding of the knowledge of the Gathas?
Thank you. Over to our speakers. And also, it would help if you tell us what you do, where you are, so that other speakers or priests can reach out, or knowledgeable elders can reach out to you.
Of course. I live in India. I'm 28 years old or so, and just interested in the religion in general to learn more and to get started with the journey. I think most of the academic literature out there is very detailed and very anthropomorphic, as most people do say. So it goes over the head to someone who's just starting their journey. So I'd like to learn a little more in detail.
Very good. So, Erva Dr. Ramyar Sahib Karanja has a website, ramyarkaranja.com. It's an excellent place to start, but I'll leave us. And then Erva Sahib Soli Dastur has the WZSE lectures on YouTube and internet. Then there's Zoroastrianheritage.com, Iranica. All these will give you sources. Kavasji Adalji Sahib Kanga's work is translated, and the Gatha Bamaini is on avasta.org. And Fizana has Iraj Taraporwala's translation of the Gathas. Over to our speakers for further guidance.
Yeah, I would.
You can also sign up to Ervad Adil's emails and Noshir's emails, which come out quite regularly, getting us not just answers, but questions to think about. Yes, Faribors.
There are two parts to Zoroastrianism. One is the Gathas, and one is Zoroastrianism itself. As I said, Zoroastrianism includes things as far as 10,000 years ago, 7,000 years before Zarathustra. We have the Gambas, we have the festivals, we have Jashn Sadeh and everything which is pre-Zoroastrian. Then we have the Gathas. Now what has happened is that the translators and the scholars have mixed the two up and presented it in the Gathas, and we are lost. So please, whoever wants to study
the question is, where do you go?
That's what I'm saying. Study the Gathas by itself and Zoroastrianism by itself. Don't mix the two. They're two different things.
I understood that. Thank you.
Let me just interject here that, there's a lot of, shall I say, bashing of academic study of Zoroastrianism, which I will say and I will defend as being extremely valuable extremely good.
Jamshid, turn your camera on. Turn your camera on, Jamshid.
It is on. I may be having some connection problems, but I think you know who I am. This is Jamshid Choksi. And so the point here is that there are several good academic translations of the Gathas. If you want one that is both accurate and, in my academic judgment, both accurate and intelligible, easy to read, you can go to, for example, Helmut Humbach and Palani Chapuria, The Heritage of Zarathustra. They are a concise translation. Parts of it are available on the web as a PDF. In other words, there is a good, Lord Mary Boyce is well known. There is a good, quite a good amount of work. You can also go to the Encyclopedia of Religion, second edition, where I have something like a 40-page entry on Zoroastrianism. There's the Encyclopedia Iranica, which is completely written by scholars who have studied these matters in detail. So there is a lot you can, anyone in the audience can go to online to do. I would strongly urge that you not dismiss the scholarship. It is learned, it builds on itself, it is self-corrective, and I think it is a good place for most of you to start.
Thank you very much, Professor Choksi. If anyone has any other suggestions, please go ahead.
So I think that this book here, Thus Replied Zarathustra, which is a pun off of Friedrich Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra by Anne van Savant, is a fascinating introduction into the Zoroastrian canon, because the decomposition of the philosophy is done in like a who, what, when, where, why, how, and how. So it's actually very easy to kind of like get in and break things down. And the references to the Gathas throughout it use Dina McIntyre's translations, which are kind of this blend of both the academic as well as easier to understand. So that's something I'd really recommend.
Thank you. Over to Mum. Mum's Jaru, over to you.
Paribos-ji, I'd like to explain a bit about Zoroastrianism and before Zoroastrianism. After Zarathustra was recognized, Zoroastrianism came into being, or Zartoshti Din came into being. Before that, we had the Mazda Din. Zarathustra belonged to Mazda Din, and therefore, after Zarathustra, it is called Mazda Zartoshti Din. Sorry for the explanation, but this is what I understand. Secondly, somebody said, we don't have to please Ahura Mazda. He is a friend. No, sure. I do believe he is our friend. And I always pray as though I'm just talking to him, or her, or it, or whatever that entity is. But I do feel that even as a friend, you have to please your friend. The moment you wake up in the morning, before you pray Hashem Vahu, we say Shnautra Aure Mazdao. It means, I wish to please you, O Ahura Mazda. How do I please you? Then you pray Hashem Vahu by saying, I will become Asho. I will become pure, and that may please you. Asho is the best way in life. It is the righteous way. It is the pure way. It's the clean way. Therefore, in what way other than that can I please you. That is all I can do to help you or please you. And that is the way you talk to your friend. You always want to please your friends, your own people, so that they'll be happy and they'll spread the happiness, as you would like to spread your happiness to others.
Thank you.
So these are the points I'd like to make.
We'll take responses.
What was the other thing I said?
We'll take responses to this one point first from the speakers. Noshir, over to you.
Yeah, I completely concur with that. I believe that we literally start our day with a positive affirmation that saying, I'm Shnausra Ahura Mazda, which also means glory to you, my friend. And you're affirming that you're going to be Asher for the sake of righteousness. It's not, I mean, if I am Asher or if I follow the path of Asher, I'll be in heaven and I'll get this reward or that reward. We simply say, I shall follow Asher for the sake of righteousness, for the sake of Asher itself. And that is nothing other than a positive affirmation. You're beginning your day with that affirmation that, yes, this is what I have to do and this is what I will do. So it's clear as that. And I think when we pray with that understanding that this is an affirmation we are making, we consciously live our life. And I think that's another important part of life, that living our life not just mechanically but consciously. That consciously I shall not harm, consciously I shall live in harmony, consciously I shall live in reverence, consciously I'll live in gratitude. These are things that we need to consciously live by. Thank you.
Correct.
This is Jamshid Choksi, and I would like to applaud the last two commentators who are completely on point.
Thank you, Jamshid.
I would like to put out like my contrarian viewpoint on this, where I don't necessarily believe that Ahura Mazda is intrinsically good or bad, but the way that we derive good is through the major three axioms of Zoroastrianism, which are Nyataoveryo, Ashembahu, and Yangehatam. So by axiomatic, I mean these are the definite like truths and unarguable nature of things. So Ashembahu is like talking about the truth behind Asha. Yatahavriyo is talking about what it means to be a leader that's a good leader, helping out those less fortunate than you. And Yangehatam is about building a community around that. So if we follow those three axioms and then end and begin with Mazda, then we're going to lead to Farshokarity, which is going to be that good world. But if we just let Mazda go on its own, it's like letting a fire just run rampant. So we need to harness it through the axiomatic views of those three prayers.
So, I forgot to say is, somebody said there is no creator. If there is no creator, if there is no element called creation, then how was everything created? Some power has to be there behind everything. Nothing comes out of nothing. There has to be something to have something out of it. Okay. So there has to be a greater power, or the greatest power there is, that has brought in all these beautiful creations. How did they come? I mean, if a seed is not planted, how will the tree grow? There has to be a root. There has to be a seed before that.
I think the Zarathustra answer to that is Aniran. The same laws of physics are the same foundation, as I'm seeing it now, of the Zarathustra understanding of creation. And that is, there was light and energy, Aniran, or Angra Raucha. And when everything is not in its material form, we will end with an Agra Raucha. And the calendar that we have and we follow ends on the last day of the month with Aniran and starts on the first day of the month with Hormuzd, the combination of Ahura Mazda and Spenta Mainyu, according to some scholars. That's my understanding currently, but I think we'll let our speakers answer that and then we'll hand over to Mr. Varsavant. Speakers, anything to address that?
So,
Yeah, I think, sorry. Please go ahead.
No, after you, please.
No, I just want to say that Karishma is right that the Zoroastrian calendar begins with the Alpha, which is the creator, Hormuz, and ends with Aniran, which is Anagra Raucha, which is endless light. So I just wanted to say that I'm completely in consonance with what you have stated. Please go ahead, Anand.
I'm going to take on, again, a slightly contrarian view to this, in the sense that if we read 44.5, Zarathustra posits, "O Ahura, I ask you this in the simplest way possible. Who is the artist that fashioned both light and darkness? Who is the artist that fashioned sleep in the waking hours? Who fashioned dawn, noon, and dusk, all which remind responsible beings of their duties?" And no response. No response. So I think that the idea is that while Zarathustra asked the same question, he didn't get a response from Ahura Mazda. So the idea is that this is a question that we might never get an answer to, but it remains important, but it's irrelevant to the rest of the way that you live your life.
Thank you.
Sounds similar to Pontius Pilate asking Jesus what is truth, and Jesus didn't answer. Right, Adil?
Yeah, to some extent, yeah.
Not so. It is exactly that. There's no answer. What is truth? And Christ doesn't answer.
Well, I mean, to us, there's a sense of truth, right? Like Asha is a both abstract truth as well as literal truth. So we have a different viewpoint than the Romans did at that time, but I could see your point there.
Thank you very much. I don't think we're approaching the end, so whoever wants to stay on, please do stay. I'm not turning the recording off. After everyone's finished, then we'll turn the recording off, and whoever was too shy to speak during the recording can then continue to speak. But we'll take Faribor's question. Sorry, Mr. Varzavan, I think Faribor's just wants to come in now, and then we'll hand over to you.
I just want to make a comment on 44. 44 is not a question to God. It's a question that it says...
Sorry, Faribor, sorry. You mean it's not a question to Ahura Mazda?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's really important that at this point we come to at least one conclusion from all our speakers so far, that if I'm talking about a chair, I don't substitute the word chair with table, even though sometimes they may be seen as one object by some people. So if we're addressing the question to Ahura Mazda, then the question is to Ahura Mazda, not to God.
Yeah,
Correct me if I'm...
Yeah, you're right. What I mean is, this is not a question that is asked to a higher authority or anyone. It is a question that people have. It's that you ask. Tattva. Twa is you. Tattva. So it is that you ask. Truly I say. I'm reading 44.4. That you ask. Truly I say. In creation, nobody holds the earth down and the sky from falling down. Who water and plant, who to wind and dark clouds impart swiftness, no one. Good creation, wisdom brings about through thoughts. This is my translation, and it's word by word. I'm not messing up the words. And Twa is you. Tattva porse, that you people ask me, I'm telling you the answer. He's not waiting for any higher authority to give him the answer. He's giving the answer to the question of the people. The whole 44 has been like that.
I also ask, who wrote all these words? How did all these words come into the scriptures? How did the sentences form that time? Is it not like Chinese whispers? That one spoke one thing and the other spoke another thing, and they formed the gathas?
I will
Please
answer that
explain how
question.
the gathas came into being.
Zaru, I will answer that question. See, what scholars have worked on and found that there is a rhythm. There is number of words that are constant. So if you change one word, the whole rhythm, the whole system collapses. That proves that what is there is 99.9% correct. And if you read Tarapurwala's book, he has explained all of that and shown the rhythm and the number of words, etc., 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 which I won't be able to explain, but Tarapurwala's book is a reference for that. And that proves that it is 99.9% the words of Zarathustra, or it's what has always been.
So in addition to considering the meter as a checksum and the alliteration and formulaic dictation, some of the stuff that I've been writing about is about the semantic recursion, which kind of makes these hymns resistant to random drift. Because like, think about it like a crossword grid. If you change one entry, everything else kind of gets messed up, which we don't see in the gathas. In addition, there's a deep parallel to the gathas with the Rig Vedas. So like you can kind of see the Ahura Asura concept that's there. In addition, there's like that sound that sounds very similar to early Sanskrit, as well as like the poetic nature of the gathas. So those are the ways that we can assume that the fidelity has remained over millennia.
Thank you.
Exactly
Over to
that
Mr.
was what
Parvez
led,
Barzawat.
and that was what led Martin Hogg to find the gathas. It was like Shakespearean English to him, and he found it because of the originality of the language.
Thank you. Over to Mr. Barzawat. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Since you asked people to introduce themselves, my name is Bahram Varjov, and I live in California. And I raised my hand because somebody asked for a question about our relationship with Ahura Mazda, which most of this session has been about. And she said something specifically about prayer. And I wanted to just make the comment that a prayer doesn't need to be a request of a supernatural entity for supernatural help. A prayer can be a repetition to oneself of one's commitment to doing something. It can be a verbal form of the physical thing that we do when we tie the koshti, which is to affirm for ourselves our commitment. So when we say Jasame Venga Mazda, it doesn't need to mean, oh, help me, supernatural Mazda, although it could mean, I translate it as, I think Jasame can be translated as reach me, oh Mazda. And again, if Mazda is the god of the mental world, the Menog world, then it's an appropriate way to end this prayer, the Koshti tying prayer, in which we say, I choose good things, I choose good words, good thoughts, and good deeds. I make decisions. I am chavad vadatham, which I translate as I try to be strong and stand on my own 2 feet and be self-reliant. And it doesn't really fit at the end of this prayer to suddenly say 3 times, please help me. I'm a helpless person. Please help me, help me. It makes more sense to say, I hope that the things that I've been telling myself during this prayer, that I have the right to choose, that I have the right to choose what's good. I hope that these things that I'm saying penetrate, that they reach me. And so when it comes to the question, which is, do we have a 2-way relationship with Ahura Mazda, or is it just a 1-way relationship? Are we talking into the void? At least when it comes to the question that was raised by somebody of basically, what is prayer? Who are we praying to? That's my take on it. Jeru, what your mom said about Ahura Mazda being our friend, I think I translate that as that we should like Hashem, we should like the world. What I don't understand, and I've been very interested to hear is the concept of us needing to please Ahura Mazda, which is definitely part of the prayers. Choshna Utra Ahura He Mazda is what we say every day. I don't understand that. And if anybody has any ideas for it, it must be connected in some way to our being special creatures, to our being people who, by choosing correctly, can freshokarti the world. It must be in some way pleasing to the creator of Asha for us not to be beset by Daruj and for us to be Ashavand and for us to recognize Asha, but I'm not sure. Thank you for listening.
I'll answer that first, if I may, with respect to our speakers, and then take our speakers' thoughts to disagree with me or correct me. Is that okay? I'll link those three things together in how I see it. So for Frashokarati, the Gathas and the Kasti prayers have a verse, a phrase. I think it comes in 50 verse 11. Yat Vasna Frashostamem Staumi Ashem. The concept of Vasna is a very deep concept that encompasses faith, belief, and accepting as per the will of Mazda. But in that, because it's in the Kasti prayer also, it is reinforcing the idea that somehow each creation, such as myself, would need to be an instrument through which refreshment can take place in line with Mazda. Then your idea of pleasing Mazda. The verse 28.1 to start the Gathas has a Ayya yasa nemanga ushtana zashto rafedra, and it ends with Yash nevisha geusha urvanem. So it's not just to please Mazda or Ahura Mazda. It is to please what verse 43.5 says. At the beginning, Atta Paurvim, I see Mazda in every creation. So if I tie these three things together, to me the guidance is I need to please or shnevisha the essence, the urvan of Geush, of all creation. And if I take that with 43 verse 5, I see Ahura Mazda in all creation as the source, as the Porvim, as the first. So that means if I do the good things, think the good things, speak the good things, and dedicate my every breath through the Amesha Spentas, or verse 47.1 talks about each one, Asha, Bahuman, Kshatra Vairya, Spentar, Maiti, Haurvatat, and then Ameritat. Somehow through this, manifesting the Kshatra of Ahura, the last line of 47 verse 1, I can yazamaide, I can resonate with Mazda. And that word yazamaide comes in the Yenge Hatam prayer. It comes in Ajashan prayers. And that to me, to resonate with, like a tuning fork, resonate with, become one with, in resonance with Mazda, in every part of my being, is both to please, to serve, to give, and to be in line with Asha. That's my sort of takeaway, I suppose. But your question was the source of my thinking. Thank you for the question. If any of our speakers would now like to give us the final takeaway for the day, my corrections to me or responses to any questions, I'll be grateful to then close the session with your voices. Adil first, then Noshir, or Noshir first, then Adil? You both decide.
Already said that the creator lives in his creations, and that is why in the Zoroastrian tradition we revere every good creation, whether it's fire, it's water, plants, you name it, even mountains. We have, through every good creation, we have we offer homage, so to say, to all the good creations. We bow down to all of that because we believe that the creator is not someone we look up to in the sky. The sky too is a creation, of course, but I mean, the creator lives, you can say, in his, her, it creation. Because again, we come down to that gender issue. That's why. But yes, I think, and that is why, in a way, therefore, reverence for the good creations is reverence for Ahura Mazda himself. Adil?
Yeah.
Adil?
Thank you. And I'd like to just kind of continue that thought from earlier around what like good and evil essentially are from an implementation perspective, where fire can be both good or evil. You can use it to cook your food, or you can use it to burn someone's house down. Water can be used for both good and evil, right? So Ava, like all these concepts are determined by how we decide to do things. They're not inherently good or evil by themselves. It's like how we want to use them. So you have to use your own vahumana, good mind, to determine what you want to do and do your good thoughts, good words, and good deeds around them. Nothing inherently, even Ahura Mazda as in like fire allegory, isn't inherently good or bad. It's how you use your vahumana to get in touch with Ahura Mazda.
Thank you, Ervad Adil. You have a comment from Rohinton and Roshan Rivetna, who are very proud of young Adil, now father of 2 children, I should add, who's so erudite and knowledgeable, and of course to all the speakers and many participants. And Prochi also is very grateful for the different viewpoints and an insightful exchange. Ultimately, there is no right or wrong answer to the questions that have been posed, says Prochi. Philosophy thrives to a multitude of opinions, which I've been grateful to experience today. Wishing all a pleasant remainder of the day. And now over to Fariboz for his final takeaway or final point to us. Fariboz Jan, we can't hear you yet. Please unmute. Thank you.
Yes, sorry. I hope nobody has misunderstood what I am saying. So I'll just clarify. What I mean is that Zoroastrianism is a continuation of the Gathas. We have added positive things to it. We have used our wisdom to explain things and further the thoughts. Now, those thoughts may be different from the Gathas, but it's not bad. It's always good. It is like you're coating something with giving it a golden coat. So the gold is the Gathas, and we have continued that. But it is not what the Gatha says, and to understand what the Gatha says, we have to go word by word to what the Gatha says. Karishma put her thoughts very well, and that's an example. She took words from every prayer and mixed them up to present the thoughts. That is exactly what the Gathas have done, the translators of the Gathas have done. They have taken words and put their thoughts into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Farid Bozjan. I think we had a comment from Rohinton and Roshan Rivetna. As much as it is important to have people who have the knowledge, I think it's very important to be the Vastarim, as the Yatahu Vairyo prayer guides, the one who nourishes, and to be a nourisher of knowledge, and to create the environment in which knowledge and knowledge seekers thrive, to me is an important part of building or helping Mazda to manifest. And to me, Uncle Rohinton and Auntie Roshan have done that for over 50 years. In different ways, through entrepreneurship, through scholarship, through charity, through community building, and through finding ways to help Asha manifest as an organizational power for community building. So over to Uncle Rohinton and Auntie Roshan for a final thought before we stop the record.
Thank you so much, Karishma. But we were listening to Adil, And we saw him growing up as a little child in Chicago. And I'm amazed at how he's grown into this beautiful young man.
Yeah. So all these thoughts are very good. The important thing is to put all these things into action and do the best we can to make our community grow and survive. So thankful to all the speakers that they give us the inspiration to continue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. And Erbat Saiptemten Mirza, the Institute of Zoroastrian Studies of the North American Mobbeds Council, if I remember right, came as a thought through Uncle Roynton and Auntie Roshan, together with our seniors from the North American Mobbeds Council. So thank you very much.